What if a harmless prank turned out to be a deadly conspiracy? Two young women were promised fame, fortune, and reality TV stardom. Instead, they became pawns in a chilling life-taking that shocked the world. This is the bizarre story of how a YouTube prank ended the life of Kim Jong Un's half-brother, Kim Jong Nam. Buckle up, because this tale of deception, betrayal, and espionage will leave you speechless. Welcome to Horror Sagas. In early 2017, two young women, CT and Dawn, were offered what appeared to be the opportunity of a lifetime. A starring role in a prank show that promised fame and fortune. The job came with a tantalizing pay rate, $100 to $150 per prank, with the potential to earn up to $1,500 a day. It was a life-changing offer for two women desperate to escape their struggles. Oddly enough, the recruitment process was unorthodox. There were no auditions, contracts, or formalities, just casual offers that seemed more like adventures than jobs. CT, a part-time masseuse in Malaysia, was approached by a man named James, who claimed to be a producer scouting talent for a new show. Meanwhile, Dawn, an escort in Vietnam, met another recruiter named Mr. Y under similar circumstances. The two women had never met, lived in different countries, and led entirely separate lives. Yet they were both drawn to the promise of financial stability and a fresh start. Unbeknownst to them, James and Mr. Y were not talent scouts or content creators, but North Korean operatives on a covert mission. Their target was Kim Jong Nam, the estranged half-brother of North Korea's leader, Kim Jong Un. Deemed a traitor to the regime, Kim Jong Nam had been living in exile, and his elimination was considered a high priority. To ensure no direct ties to North Korea, the operatives devised a devious plan: enlist unsuspecting individuals to carry out the life-taking. CT and Dawn, young and naive, were the perfect pawns for the mission. Enticed by the prospect of fame and fortune, they agreed to participate in what they thought was a harmless prank show. The operatives promised to fly them to glamorous locations and make them international stars. But the job came with one critical task: a high-profile prank at an airport. Training began in January 2017. In Kuala Lumpur, CT practiced sneaking up on strangers, spraying them with water, and running away while laughing. These pranks were recorded by James, who posed as her director. As her skills improved, James flew her to Cambodia for advanced training under another operative, Mr. Chung. Her dedication was rewarded with a pay increase to $200 per prank, heightening her excitement. Meanwhile, Dawn underwent similar training in Vietnam, guided by Mr. Y. She practiced smearing a harmless substance on strangers' faces and fleeing the scene, all while believing it was part of a prank routine. Security footage even captured her rehearsing at an airport. Neither woman suspected the true purpose behind their actions. On February 13, 2017, the day of the airport prank, CT and Dawn finally met in Kuala Lumpur. It was their first time seeing each other, yet they were unknowingly about to become accomplices in one of the most bizarre life-taking in history. At the airport, CT was handed a liquid substance and instructed to smear it on the face of their designated target before quickly washing her hands. Dawn was given a cloth soaked in a similar liquid and tasked with completing the same action. Unknown to them, these substances were components of VX nerve agent, one of the powerful chemicals ever created. Individually, the liquids were harmless, but when combined, they became harmful. Blissfully unaware, the women followed their instructions, believing it to be just another prank. They had no idea that their actions were about to unalive someone. The North Korean operatives specifically selected Malaysia for the mission, as it was one of the few countries that allowed North Koreans to enter without requiring a visa. This lenient travel policy, designed to encourage tourism, allowed the agents to move freely and avoid raising suspicion. On February 13, 2017, 4 North Korean operatives arrived at Kuala Lumpur International Airport to coordinate the mission. Disguised as tourists and businessmen, they blended seamlessly into the bustling crowd. CT, Dawn, and their handler, Mr. Chung, waited in anticipation as their target appeared. A man in a gray blazer, carrying a dark backpack, approached the check-in counter under the alias Kim Cheol. To the unassuming women, he seemed like any ordinary traveler. They had no idea they were looking at Kim Jong Nam, the estranged half-brother of North Korea's leader, Kim Jong Un. But why would the North Korean dictator target his own sibling? Kim Jong Nam had once been groomed to lead North Korea. As the eldest son of Kim Jong Il, he had been raised with privilege and power. However, his future unraveled after a major embarrassment. At 30, Kim Jong Nam was arrested in Japan for attempting to enter the country using a fake passport to visit Disneyland. This incident deeply shamed his father, and the scandal effectively ended his claim to succession. Kim Jong Un, the younger sibling, was chosen to lead instead, leaving Kim Jong Nam to live in exile in Macau, China. Even in exile, Kim Jong Nam lived under constant fear. After his father's passing away and Kim Jong Un's rise to power, the relationship between the brothers worsened. Kim Jong Nam publicly criticized Kim Jong Un's authoritarian rule, which escalated tensions. Rumors soon surfaced that Kim Jong Nam was leaking North Korean secrets to the CIA. These suspicions prompted Kim Jong Un to order his brother's elimination. On that fateful February morning, Kim Jong Nam walked through the crowded airport, oblivious to the danger that awaited him. He felt safe among the throngs of travelers, but he was heading directly into a carefully planned trap. As he entered the departure hall, everything seemed normal. Travelers bustled around, checking flight schedules and dragging luggage. Among them, CT and Don prepared to carry out what they still believed was a prank. When Kim Jong Nam neared the check-in area, the women sprang into action. CT approached first, covering his eyes in a playful gesture as though engaging in a game of peekaboo. She quickly smeared an oily substance across his face. Seconds later, Don followed, rubbing a cloth over his mouth and cheeks before retreating. The harm was over in a flash, lasting only moments. Neither woman realized the deadly consequences of their actions. The substances they carried, each harmless on its own, combined to form VX nerve agent, one of the powerful poisons known. This chemical weapon disrupts the nervous system, causing paralysis and death within minutes. VX is so potent that even a tiny amount, less than a grain of sugar, is lethal. The women were unharmed because each carried only one component of the agent. But when the substances mixed on Kim Jong Nam's face, the effects were catastrophic. 6 CCTV cameras captured the incident. As CT and Don fled in opposite directions, Kim Jong Nam stumbled toward the airport clinic, his vision blurring and his skin burning. He sought medical help but collapsed soon after. He was rushed to an ambulance but died before reaching the hospital. The case immediately drew international attention. The victim's passport identified him as Kim Cheol, and North Korean officials quickly confirmed the identity while demanding the immediate return of the body. Their insistence on avoiding an autopsy raised suspicions among Malaysian authorities. DNA testing ultimately revealed that Kim Cheol was indeed Kim Jong Nam. The use of VX poison, a substance North Korea was known to stockpile, left little doubt about who was responsible. However, the involvement of 2 unsuspecting women as pawns added a chilling layer to the case. The Malaysian police reviewed the surveillance footage, which clearly showed CT and Don applying substances to Kim Jong Nam's face before running away. A manhunt for the women began immediately. Unaware of what they had done, CT and Don went about their lives. After the prank, they washed their hands, collected their payment, and left the airport. When authorities arrested them days later, both women appeared genuinely confused. CT even thought her detention was part of the prank show. The realization of what had happened struck them hard as they learned they were being charged for life-taking. On March 1, 2017, both women were formally charged in a Malaysian high court. CT, a 25-year-old Indonesian, and Don, a 28-year-old Vietnamese, appeared before the public for the first time since their arrests. The charges carried the possibility of the death penalty. While awaiting trial, the women endured harsh prison conditions, holding on to slim hope that the truth of their innocence would emerge. Initially, the investigation seemed promising. Malaysian police arrested a North Korean man linked to the case, and Interpol issued red notices for 4 additional suspects. But progress stalled when authorities released the North Korean detainee due to insufficient evidence. Despite their suspicions, they lacked the proof to connect him directly to the crime. The other operatives vanished into thin air, evading capture with remarkable efficiency. All four were suspected North Korean intelligence agents, using aliases like Mr. Y and Grandpa. None were apprehended. They managed to flee Malaysia and return to North Korea within hours of the incident. With no other suspects to hold accountable, the entire weight of the case rested squarely on CT and Doan. The prosecution presented what seemed to be an airtight case. Surveillance footage captured every detail of the harm, showing CT and Doan approaching Kim Jong Nam, smearing a substance on his face, and then running away. The most damning evidence, according to the prosecutors, was the women immediately heading to the restroom to wash their hands. The question was raised: if they didn't know the substance was dangerous, why the urgency to clean it off? The prosecutors argued that CT and Doan were trained assassins, recruited by North Korean operatives and specifically instructed to carry out the poisoning. The trial was grueling, stretching over weeks, months, and eventually years. The two women sat silently in court, their hope gradually fading with each passing day. But then, in March 2019, the unexpected happened. Prosecutors announced they were dropping the life-taking charge against CT, choosing to place the entire blame on Doan instead. This twist stunned everyone. Despite both women being caught on camera committing the act, prosecutors suddenly decided to release CT. On March 11, 2019, she was informed she was free to go. The life-taking charge against her was withdrawn, and she was put on a private flight to Jakarta, Indonesia. Speaking to reporters after her release, tears streaming down her face, CT said, "I'm so happy. I never expected this. Today is my freedom day." The prosecutors did not provide an official explanation for the sudden dismissal of her charges, but the reasoning seemed evident. Although the life-taking occurred in Malaysia, neither CT nor Doan were Malaysian citizens. CT was Indonesian, and Doan hailed from Vietnam. Behind the scenes, the Indonesian government had been lobbying intensely for CT's release. High-ranking officials, including Indonesia's president, made numerous appeals to Malaysian leaders, emphasizing that CT had been deceived into committing the crime. They even hinted that her continued imprisonment might strain diplomatic relations between the two nations. Facing mounting pressure, Malaysia relented and allowed CT to return home. For Doan, however, the situation was starkly different. Without the same level of advocacy from her home country, she was left to face the trial on her own. Her lawyers argued that the decision to release CT while keeping Doan in custody was deeply unfair, but their objections went unheard. Isolated and overwhelmed, Doan struggled under the stress of the trial. Her health deteriorated, she lost weight, and she frequently broke down in tears, feeling completely abandoned. Then, on April 1, 2019, a surprising development brought her some relief. Prosecutors offered to reduce the charges against her, proposing a conviction for voluntarily causing injury with a weapon instead of life-taking. This lesser charge eliminated the possibility of a death sentence and significantly reduced her potential prison time. Doan accepted the deal and pled guilty. Her sentence was finalized, 3 years and 4 months. With time already served and credit for good behavior, Doan was released shortly thereafter. Both women eventually returned home, trying to rebuild their shattered lives. The ordeal left them deeply scarred, but also served as a cautionary tale. CT and Doan's story underscores the ease with which unsuspecting individuals can be manipulated, often with devastating consequences. Pursuing a better life, they were unwittingly drawn into a conspiracy far beyond their understanding. Their experience is a stark reminder that when something seems too good to be true, it almost always is. Thank you for watching. Do you think justice was served for CT and Doan? Or were they merely victims of a larger conspiracy? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you love this story, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another mystery. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe.